Coming up on Tekthing, Nexus Day, and more deets on Android Marshmallow, incredibly useful cable thingies, Novo Smart Volume Control, green versus blue versus black, audiophile CD ripping, stick a fork in TrueCrypt, and no, I have no GPU. It's all coming up on Tekthing.
If you get something useful out of this episode of Tekthing, please consider contributing to the show at patreon.com/Tekthing. We're brought to you by viewers just like you, so thank you so very, very much. I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is Tekthing, where we make technology behave.
At least on the good days.
And you know what today is?
Google Android Marshmallow Nexus Day.
Yay!
We'll freak out about that in a second. First though, just because you've had a security audit don't mean there ain't no flaws to find, which is a way of saying we have a bit of an update on TrueCrypt.
Yeah, that's right, we did. So over at PC World, I read up on this article earlier today and I was just like, newly found TrueCrypt Flaw allows full system compromise. So James Forshaw of Google's Project Zero said that he found 2 security holes in the driver that TrueCrypt installs. So they were not found in the audit earlier this year. Forshaw says that they could allow attackers to obtain elevated privileges on a system if they have access to a limited user account.
So it's funny, it's not like flaws in the encryption, it's the driver that in TrueCrypt installs.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially what happens, and this is from the VeriCrypt creator, he had a quote in here. He says, essentially the TrueCrypt driver does not properly validate the drive letter symbolic link used for mounting volume. So you know when you have like drive C, that's usually your Windows volume. So each volume has a number or a letter that corresponds with it. So an attacker can leverage a running process to get full admin privileges. That's kind of scary. Though luckily both of those problems have already been fixed in VeriCrypt. Given that TrueCrypt is no longer being updated though, or maintained, it's not going to get fixed in TrueCrypt.
So the thing is though, they have to have access to your PC.
Yes.
Which I think it sounds like it's TrueCrypt is fairly secure if you like only have one account in your system, no guest accounts, and you never give up your password, right?
Good luck with that.
Okay.
I take a trust no one approach. So when you go to customs and they ask for your computer,
well,
you know,
if they ask for your computer, I mean, that's just, it's funny because I've met people who did not want whose encryption opens up as soon as they log into their computer.
Oh yeah.
Which kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
But that gets into the whole security thing.
Security.
Woo! Google event.
Yay.
New Nexuses.
All the new Nexuses. So I'll walk you through them, try to make this as quick as I can. So first off, we have the Nexus 5X. The display on this thing is 5.2 inches. It's a 1920 by 1080 resolution, 423 pixels per inch.
Very nice.
Yeah, so there's a rear camera on this, of course. We should have a rear camera. It's 12.3 megapixels, 1.55 micrometer pixels, which is the size of the pixels. Basically, if you have bigger ones, the amount of photons ends up being a larger amount, so they can bring in more light, which is better for darker scenarios.
Low light photography.
Low light photography, exactly.
Bar shots.
F2.0, yeah, bar shots. Oh, dude, that's a great idea.
Thank you.
F2.0 aperture, 4K 30 frame per second video, and slow motion, which is also a very new thing.
3,000 frames per second slow motion?
I wish. It's 120 FPS.
So moderately slow motion.
So, yeah, moderately slow. The front camera on it's a 5 megapixel. That's pretty average in this day and age. 1.4 micrometer pixels, f2.0 aperture, so pretty much the same as the front one. They also have a speaker on the front as opposed to the back, like my Note 4 has one on the back, which is kind of annoying sometimes. So I like a front-facing speaker. I did want to mention that.
Yeah, that's the iPhone has the speaker on the side, so if it's quiet, I have to cup my hand around.
And the insights. This will run Marshmallow, which is Android 6.0, the newest version of Android. It has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 808 processor and an Adreno 418 GPU, 2 gigs of RAM, and it comes in 16 or 32 gigs.
Micro SD card slot?
No micro SD card slot.
WTF.
I know, mate. It's 2,700 milliamp per hour battery, and it does have things like NFC and GPS and Bluetooth and all of the Wi-Fi's The Wiffies.
The Wiffies.
The phone is carrier unlocked with wide range band support for service providers worldwide, so you can use it all over the world. And it takes a nano SIM card, just one, not two, like I believe it was the Acer that we reviewed earlier this year. And I like the colors that this one comes in. Carbon, quartz, and ice.
Ice.
Pretty ice blue. So I ordered the ice blue for us to review on the show. Hopefully it'll come in a few weeks. We'll see. We'll see how many pre-orders they get today. Yeah, I'm scared. So a few other really cool things that this comes with as well.
The fingerprint sensor is on the back.
Yeah, it's on the back. So my Note 4 has a swipey swipe on the front. I have to swipe over it, which I've gotten very used to, so it works very well for me. I'm wondering how the Nexus imprint is going to work.
Well, your finger falls in the right spot, so that's good.
It does fall in the right spot, so we will see if it's actually usable. I can't wait to see that. It also has USB Type-C, the new standard, as they're saying. This one is going to be reversible, so it's not going to be as hard to plug in, and apparently faster, too.
Faster charging. We don't know.
Faster charging, yeah.
We're waiting to see whether, what kind of throughput speed there's going to be.
I believe the quote was 10 minutes for 4 hours of use. 10 minutes charged, 4 hours of use.
That's pretty badass.
Polycarbonate housing, so yeah, pretty decent. And then it starts at, I believe it starts at about $379. Yes, $379. So not a bad price. $429 for the 32 gig, as we see.
16 gigabytes does not feel like enough storage.
I know, right?
The new Android Google Nexus glorious marshmallow-powered flagship of joy, aka the 6P 5.7 Quad HD 2560 by 1440 screen on that puppy. That is 518 pixels per inch, which should be luscious, to quote Robert Heron, like 2 times in 2 weeks. 1.55 micrometer pixels, f.2 aperture, one pretty much like the same 12.3 megapixel camera, except, kids, there's one big difference. You not only get the 4K video, but you get slow-mo at 240 frames per second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the front cam on this one is 8 megapixels. It's 1.4 micrometer pixels. Those are f2.4 aperture, or it has f2.4 aperture, and HD video. So you can record HD video on the front cam at 30 FPS. And it has dual front-facing speakers. They're stereo instead of just one front-facing speaker.
So you can record yourself at 30 frames per second in raging selfie mode.
You can imagine all the YouTube videos we're going to see. It's going to be amazing.
I
Not
hope
really.
So. Qualcomm Snapdragon 810 version 2.1, which is a delightfully speedy little processor with Adreno 430 GPU, 3 gigabytes of RAM. Yes! 32 gigabytes, 64 and 128 gigabyte storage options, a 3,450 milliamp hour battery, which should help compensate for that. Yeah, actually, I love that shot of the side of the case with the camera where it swells for the camera enclosure. NFC, Bluetooth, GPS, all the Wi-Fi's, worldwide support. Nano SIM card, which means a lot of people are going to have to change their SIM cards in.
Yep.
The case is aluminum or available in aluminum, graphite, or frost. Frost is not available in 32 gigabytes. Also USB Type-C. This case is not plastic, it's anodized aluminum. Also has a fingerprint sensor conveniently located in the back, and the prices start at $499, which, if you think about it, is pretty reasonably priced for a flagship level phone.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I'm just excited that the 5X is priced at that sub $400 price range, although not having a micro SD card does not make me happy. There's a side deal, $50 in Google Play credit and 90 days of free Google Play Music with the phone purchase.
I think that's happening until like the end of October, so you have a month to get that deal.
Google's starting to push the media in a big way. So, basically $50 for the music and free streaming with phone purchase. This was interesting. You found The Verge had this graph they put together.
The Verge made this really excellent graph. I actually really like this because it gives a great comparison of all the other mainline smartphones that are currently on the market for this year. So it gives you a nice drop down. You can see like the 6P is pretty on par with a lot of the higher end phones that cost a lot more, except for like, the 8 megapixel camera or the 12.3 megapixel camera. Obviously, Samsung has that beat right there, but they have a 5 megapixels,
but is their processing is good? Is their low light performance is good?
We will see. I will do comparisons. I am excited. Oh yeah, Darren's like, try my phone.
So many phones.
Those new Nexuses are mine. Sorry, dude.
It's pretty much all of the, this is like the last of the major Android announcements before the holiday shopping frenzy begins.
Pretty much, but they did announce a couple of other things that we did want to mention.
Marshmallow Android 6.0 announced, available next week, and you'll eventually get it when your carrier finishes modifying it. App permissions, you're excited about this.
Better app permissions. So it's going to give you a lot better experience whenever you want to go through your different applications and choose which things can access what on your on your phone. For example, your camera. Like your flashlight doesn't need access to your camera, it just needs access to the flash. Or maybe that's a terrible example.
No, it's actually a really good example, because that's when I started getting really uptight about Android apps, when I was re-downloading literally a flashlight app, and it wanted access to my contacts, my database, like everything on my phone that you might want to access if you're going to resell my information to someone or spam all of my friends.
They're also touting better battery conservation, this touch to unlock with the supported devices like the new 5X and 6P, and this really cool thing called Google Now on Tap. This is pretty cool. You basically can have something on the front of your phone, like you're texting one of your friends about dinner. So I could say, hey Darren, let's go to the Baltic tonight. And then I could put my finger on the home button, highlight it there, and then a little Google screen would pop up with open table reservations, a map, the phone number, and all that different stuff just from the text. So it's basically reading my text messages. Yay!
Well, that's a feature, not a bug.
It's a feature. Notifications are supposed to be more consistent as well, so that's going to be pretty exciting too, because they've updated basically the GUI experience.
Don't pay for your shopping cart yet, because there's a new Chromecast, which looks like a little yellow, red, or black hockey puck. 1080p video, no 4K support, very similar to the Apple TV, 802.11ac, 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, 3 built-in antennae for streaming, still $35. Chromecast app now supports universal voice search, and the Chromecast now supports Sling TV, NBA, NHL, Showtime, etc. So the battles for your home theater screen continue to rage on.
All the things.
I thought the Chromecast audio was a funny one to put in there.
Yeah, it's cute.
Well, yeah, it's basically the
I don't need it.
Chromecast without the video. It's also $35. You can connect it to your stereo system or your speaker, stream music from your device. Google Play Music, they got a new plan for 6 people. This is kind of the thing now. Like, expect Spotify to drop their prices, and eventually even Tidal. Google Play Music, 6 people, $14.99 a month, which is a pretty good deal.
So it's like a family deal. Yeah.
Yeah, and Google Photos, they say, will get easier to use because you can finally add your own photos when invited.
Yay! And last but not least, they also introduced a brand new Pixel. So this is called the Pixel C. It's not a laptop, it's actually a tablet. So it's called the Pixel C. It's a 10.2-inch tablet with USB-C charging as well, and it's going to start at $499, and it'll be available before the holidays. The interesting thing about this, though, is it's not running Chrome OS. Instead, it's running Android 6.0 Marshmallow. It has an NVIDIA Tegra X1 processor on the inside and 3 gigs of RAM. So they say that it's going to be enough for the processing of this machine.
That's pretty badass as far as tablet specs go.
Yeah, it's
especially
actually,
for gaming.
Yeah, for tablets, definitely. The new 149 keyboard that you see on my screen here, that is going to be $149. It charges inductively, which is pretty cool. So you don't need additional cables for it, and it uses a Bluetooth connection to the actual tablet, so you won't have as many issues with cables and things. I'm pretty excited.
Do we know what's the price on the tablet itself?
$499.
Wow.
Yep, and then $149 for the keyboard. So not super excited about the tablet, but that's just because I have an iPad and I don't necessarily need to update. But I'm sure a lot of people are going to be super excited. It looks really cool.
It'll be interesting to compare
that
to. It'll be interesting to compare that to. Some of it's funny, it's an Android tablet. I'm curious.
Yeah, I know.
That's either going to be really awesome or really awful.
Yep.
You know who's really amazing? Sweet, gentle, kind, and capable of burrowing deep into your digital life until the point where you go, wait a minute, is that Darren in my files?
Oh,
yes.
Darren. Oh.
Darren from Hack 5. What's happening, dude?
I don't know exactly what to make of that, Patrick, but I do know that on Hack 5 this week, Shannon is talking to Troy Hunt, the maker of HaveIBeenPwned.com. It's where you can find out if you've been pwned, and I'll be talking about building graphical interfaces in the command line using text. It's like ANSI. It looks like a BBS. It's a lot of fun. Okay, anyway, back to your guys' show. Find that HAK5.
This week's Rapid Fire Roundup is incredibly useful cables for fitting things into incredibly small places. That sounds weird. Are you ready?
Yes.
Go.
I should point out, these aren't actually cables, these are cable adapters.
Ooh.
There is a cable I'm going to talk about in a second, but this we're looking at, so I have my home theater gear is in a closet, and it's on a shelf in the back of the closet, and of course closet backs have walls, and
Yes.
walls pressing against cables cause the cables to bend, and if you bend the cable enough, you will break the cable. That is an HDMI right angle port saver adapter. These are crazy, like Amazon sells them, Monoprice sells them, but I'm going to show you a bunch on Monoprice real quick. This is the right angle one. This is the 90-degree one, so that'll drop the cable straight down. These things are awesome.
That's so cool.
If you have a very limited amount of space behind your AV equipment,
Yeah.
or if you just don't want the weight of the cable dragging down on the back of the port, because going like this to an HDMI port with a cable is bad. If you want something a little crazier, the HDMI port adapter, they have a swivel version, which just
that is awesome.
yeah, it pretty much adjusts. I've had one of these for a long time. It has had no signal issues. Some people worry about that. I would also want to remind people, you no longer need, everybody used to buy these big fat HDMI cables because, you know, big fat cables are better for the pixels and stuff.
Especially if they came in gold.
Especially if they came in gold. But take a look over, something you should know about are short cables. These are the Slim Series cables, the Ultra Slim HDMI cables from Monoprice. They start as short as 6 inches. You can get like a 6-inch, a 12-inch, a 1.5 feet, 2 feet, 4 feet, 6
wow.
feet. They don't weigh as much. They
That's
don't require
good.
as much cable management. They don't end up with, you don't end up with your cat screaming from behind your HD TV because it's gotten wrapped up in all the cables back there.
I feel like you've had an experience with this.
A friend of mine had an experience with this, not me. But it makes for a really clean installation if you figure out where the gear goes and order cables that's the right length, and they're inexpensive. They're like $5.49 each. They're decent quality cables.
That's awesome.
There might be a theme here, because number 2 is right angle USB cables, of which there are a lot of options. Again, if you like to shove your case up against the back of the desk, or you want to make sure you are not dragging, if you want to save space, these are awesome because they take, they may cover other USB ports depending on the layout of your motherboard, but you can basically keep the cables from hanging in awkward fashions. I may be obsessed with this at this point. I'm starting to get really frustrated with lots of cables pointing in 8 different directions, which makes the Raspberry Pi a little crazy making sometimes. But
I totally know what you mean.
But there are a bunch of options in there, cables and adapters. Some of the cables are actually really, really cool because they allow you to, again, to avoid having stuff sticking out where it can get knocked and beat up. And since there's definitely themage today, right angle audio jacks,
You can get audio jacks at an angle? I guess you can.
well, yeah, this one's probably overkill for your average sort of consumer set of headphones. Nutric makes pretty badass adapters. I probably wouldn't do. These are all solder-on ones, but I find that my phone's audio jack, gets a lot less torn up if there's a right angle jack on it. Again, because it reduces the leverage the cable has on it. So if you're the kind of person that has like big heavy cables or likes to drag like this on their phone or knocks into things, the right angle adapter will help a little bit to protect the port inside of your phone.
That's awesome.
If I looked for my phone in my pocket instead of on the table, I would find it. But you just want to reduce the amount of stuff knocking around or how far it sticks out the back.
Absolutely.
It is helpful. These are small things, but
They're small things, but extremely helpful, and it saves you money in the long run because you don't have to get new cables. You just get a really cool looking, funny, sideways adapter.
Well, these will
like
require
Tetris.
soldering, but that's a whole other conversation. But oh my, yeah, I'm rebuilding the home theater stack, and it's just.
Ooh.
I should take a picture of an example of how not to do any form of cabling. It would be professionally and personally embarrassing. Even the cat laughs when it sees it.
Everyone will yell at you.
Got something to add? Email ask@tekthing.com. We are waiting eagerly for your mail, and we try our best to answer each and every one. Kevin emailed ask@tekthing.com with a message titled Difference Between WD Green 1 terabyte versus WD Blue 1 terabyte for primary use. He said, hello, Patrick and Shannon. I'm just wondering if there's a big difference between these two drives. Can you use the WD Green as a main drive, or should I use the WD Blue as a main drive? I'm also using Windows 10 too. Thanks. Keep up the great work on Tekthing, and I enjoy the show. Kevin in Spotsylvania, Virginia. It's an interesting time to be looking at Western Digital hard drives.
It is.
They are transitioning their entire drive lineup. A few weeks ago, like 2-3 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, we'd have had a completely different answer. It's interesting. But for 1 terabyte and larger drives, with the new drives moving forward, it's looking a lot like the blue and green drives are pretty much the same drive spec-wise in terms of the hardware.
Yeah, they're pretty similar. Luckily, Western Digital has a nice breakdown, which Patrick has over on his machine over here. This shows you exactly which hard disk drives they have to offer and what the differences are, main differences between blue and green and black.
Au contraire. Right, because like right now they list on this like WD Blue, 250 gigabytes to 6 terabytes. But when you start searching around on Amazon, you can pretty much buy this Western Digital Blue drive, 1 terabyte drive, which is one of the older ones. So let's take it back a second, right? So both these drives, blues and greens, have 2-year warranties. Greens probably spin at 5,400 RPM, but Western Digital will not give you an exact number. They label them as IntelliPower. So instead of giving a spindle speed, partially because they do some interesting things with drive speed and cache that are all about saving power consumption, minimizing power consumption, and because a lot of people won't buy drives that spin slower than 7,200 RPM.
Like me.
Which is really funny, because when you look at all the new Western Digital Blue drives, which if I click on the right tab are right there, it looks like, oh, look at all these 7,200 RPM drives.
Wow.
Well, all of those seem to be going away in favor of the RZ suffix. EX 7,200 probably going away, RZ 5,400. See all these big sizes, 6 terabyte, 5 terabyte, 4 terabyte. So now,
so the RZs are going to have 64 gigs of cache, and they're going to spin at 5,400 RPM.
Right.
Gotcha.
So that said, you can't buy any of those yet anywhere. Matter of fact, the WD10 Easy EX, which spins at 7,200 RPM, is about the only Western Digital Blue drive you can buy unless you want to spend like $100 for the 1 terabyte Blue SSHD, the hybrid SSD HD.
But that should be faster, right?
That should be faster.
Okay.
Not as fast as like the black squared, but it should be faster.
So between the current 1 terabyte Blue and the 1 terabyte green drives, the blue 1 terabyte that ends in the EX should be faster.
Yes.
Out of those two.
Yes.
Okay.
In 3 or 4 weeks, when it goes to the RZ suffix, it's funny, you know. It was interesting because I was talking to Alan Malventano about this, because I was like, wait a minute. He's like, okay, we started talking about this whole transition. He was saying he personally recommends people just buy red drives for their desktops, which technically are for NAS drives.
Yeah, I thought those were for NAS.
But he's also all about drive reliability. I bring that up because while I've run Western Digital Blue drives as my main drive with 0 problems, I usually get Western Digital Black drives, which cost a little bit more, about 50% more. But you also get a 5-year warranty instead of 2, and for the new black drives, you're probably going to get much higher spindle speeds, 7,200 instead of 5,400 RPM. And part of what this is all about is in the last couple of years, Western Digital ended up in situations where some of the blue drives were outperforming the black drives because they got the, well, spindle speed is important.
Yes.
To performance, but areal density, the number of sort of bits of data per inch or per square inch, can have huge impacts on performance. Because it used to be back in the day, like 7,200 RPM drives, always faster. And then somebody came out with this new drive that was spinning at 5,400 RPM, but it had a much higher areal density. Therefore, it was moving more bits underneath the head at a lower speed. It was crazy. It was spinning like fewer RPM, but actually moving more data under the head. So spindle speed is no longer as reliable an indicator. That said, when you look at the new WZ suffix, the WZ, I think, or the WX are the new black suffixes. Those are all 7,200 RPM. They're all getting 128 gigabyte of cache. I think Western Digital is going to make very, very sure blues are slower than black in the future. We'll find out.
We will find out. I think my new one's a black that I put in my most recent machine, but for the most part, I've always bought greens.
Yeah.
I was looking at my old machines, and they were all caviar, environmental friendly ones because they didn't take as much power.
Those were so long ago. Well, it's nice also, like 2 terabytes, $78, 3 terabytes, $93. The reds are a little more expensive. Oh, 6 terabytes, $250.
Okay.
5 terabytes, $210. I get obsessed about giant amounts of hardware.
But you have something fun to look at.
This twee little thing is the Novo Smart Volume Control.
What?
It's an automatic volume control. So, essentially.
What does that mean?
Okay, so there's a built-in microphone.
Okay.
A little bit of circuitry and an algorithm that adjusts the volume based on your choices. There's 2 settings over here on this switch. 1 is boost mode, 2 is reduce mode. And then there's a slider to adjust the sensitivity. So as you adjust it towards the headphone jack, it gets more sensitive, and then it's got a 3.5 millimeter stereo jack plug with a 12-inch cable. You know, it weighs a couple ounces. It's about the size of a 1.25, like 1.5 inches long, less than an inch wide, half-inch high.
That's cool.
Yeah, they make a big deal on the website. It has a MEMS microphone using superior MEMS microphone technology. So MEMS microphones, like micro electrical mechanical system, generally means a little tiny surface mount mic. Usually has an analog to digital converter in it and a preamp, all in a little tiny CMOS chip that's surface mountable, like a condenser type mic.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean but you know, you can buy them like on Mouser. You know,
Yeah,
it's not like it's their proprietary, or maybe it is their proprietary super
And it's got a
MEMS
clip,
mic.
I see.
It's got a clip, so you can clip it to your clothing or your case or something. It works. It's kind of a funny thing.
A funny thing.
Well, that I can't operate a clothing clip. That's highly amusing. Watch me like rip my shirt into small pieces. Well, I'll just not use the clip at the moment because apparently the clip is too butch.
Let me see
for
that.
Me. You
Oh
try
my
to clip.
goodness.
So it's interesting,
Boys.
right? So you have your volume set, you have your headphones on, and the first time a loud motorcycle came up behind me, the volume inside my head, the volume of the headphones
Worked.
dipped, and it
on my
stayed
pants.
down until.
I put it on my pants.
Well, I'm glad one of
don't
us
know
can
if you-
operate a clip.
Okay.
So the first
it
time a
is.
motorcycle came by, the volume dipped and it stayed down to like a second or so, maybe 2 seconds after it passed. It felt like very smooth transition on the volume dropping. Didn't notice any negative impact on audio.
Cool.
It's interesting. So if you're listening to music, if you set it to the reduce mode, if somebody's like, you know, hey Shannon, come over here, your audio will go down to help you hear them. Or
That's
if there's,
really neat.
if you're listening to music on your bicycle, which I can't do because riding a bike without being able to hear scares me, the volume will go down and you will hear the car coming up behind you. So that's
Very
kind of
cool.
the theory here. Or if you don't like your neighbor who talks too much in the cube next to you, when they start talking, the volume will go up. This is not active noise canceling technology. It's not going to turn your headphones into sound killers that, you know, it's not going to eliminate the noise of the droning motor on the airplane when you're
Yeah.
flying. It does one thing. It turns the audio up or it turns the audio down based on external noises, and it does it pretty well. Little tiny Type 13 batteries. They claim, I don't want to break it, so I'm not going to try to pop it open, 200 hours of operation or approximately 6 weeks of use if
Okay.
you listen to it a few hours every day. The company's adaptive sound technologies, the Novo Smart Volume Control, is currently on Indiegogo. I don't generally review crowdfunding projects, but they actually had a functioning device and they were willing to let me test it, so I went for it. They're raising a ton of cash. I think it's really
Apparently.
interesting. So there's like a $29 early bird option, like a $39 early bird option, which is kind of silly to sign up for, but they're selling a ton of 10 packs in the enterprise bulk pack.
That's weird.
So I'm envisioning
I wonder
all of
why.
these people in small offices in San Francisco that just don't want to hear each other anymore.
Everyone hates everyone.
Well, it's available. They have a working project. This is not their first hardware product. They have a working product. This is
Yes.
not their first hardware product that they've built.
Awesome.
And it works. It automatically turns the volume down or up.
That's really cool.
It's-
Well, let us know what you guys think. Of course, you can always email us at ask@tekthing.com or you can tweet us at tekthing.
If you're a fan of Tekthing, and I hope you are, make sure you subscribe at tekthing.com on iTunes or youtube.com/tekthing. That makes sure you get each and every episode each and every time we make one. And if you want to take it to the next level, consider contributing to the show at patreon.com/tekthing. You can donate however much you want per episode. Every little bit counts, and you get access to our patron-only build videos, one of which is being posted in just a few hours. I hope. Can't donate? No worries. Please take the time to send us questions, tips, and to share the show with your friends and family, and giving our video the thumbs up on YouTube, liking our Facebook page. All of it helps, especially iTunes reviews. And hey, thank you so much for supporting the show. No matter how you do it, keep watching. We hope to keep bringing it to you for a long time.
Reminder! Facebook.com/tekthing is where you can go to get all the updates from us over on Facebook. Speaking of which, Barb asked over there, hey Tekthing staff and fans, what are some good desktop apps for ripping music CDs besides iTunes? I've come to really dislike iTunes. I'd like to rip my music in MP3 and higher def, maybe even FLAC. Thanks in advance from Barb.
You have come to the right place.
Oh, have you?
Oh my goodness. I'm going to try to contain myself a little bit here. My personal favorite application is this, DB Power Amp CD Ripper, at least for CD audio ripping. The reference for 15 version is the one you pick up now. I started using it a long time ago. It does secure ripping, which is a really interesting idea. Imagine like reading every sector on the CD twice, or reading every sector a dozen times if that's what it takes to get a consensus on what is contained in the sector so that you have a actual exact audio copy from the disc.
Cool.
Accurate RIP is built in. That compares your RIP to an online database to make sure it is accurate, i.e. you got the number of bits that you should have. It'll encode or transcode pretty much any compression you want, even multiple compressions and formats simultaneously, which means you can actually do your FLAC and your MP3 simultaneously.
Nice.
But my personal favorite feature is the thing that powers the RIP Monster 3000, which is the DB Power Amp Batch Ripper.
Batch Ripper.
Basically, it makes it really easy to, you can use a robot, you can rip 6 or 8 CDs simultaneously really fastly, which is what I have inside that crazy machine I built. It's fast, it has tons of features. All of this together costs $39.
Ooh.
If you're going no right now, then you should go look at exactaudiocopy.de. Exact Audio Copy 11. If you're in the United States, download this from downloads.com. It is the choice of serious audio geeks. It does secure ripping, it supports accurate rip, it's not as fast as DB Power Amp in my experience, that doesn't do album art, but it is free and the audio quality is the best.
Cool.
The EAC configuration can be terrifying to newbies, which is why they have a beginner install that hides all of the advanced features. I highly recommend it. When you are ready for the legion of options that are available, go to the Hydrogen Audio EAC configuration wizard, which will walk you through, like, do you prefer accurate results? No, there's a lot of really crazy settings inside of here, and if you want to go nuts with them, Hydrogen Audio is a great place to hang out. It's a lot of high-end audio people. FUBAR 2000 is another one. Technically, it's a playback piece of software from the people who bring the DB Power Amp, but it can rip and encode. And if you want to really geek out, go to Hydrogen Audio's comparison of CD rippers. We'll have a link to this in the show notes. You're looking at all the different features in EAC, DB Power Amp, FUBAR 2000, iTunes, Windows Media Player, Q, Epper, Diesel, there are lots and lots of options.
Awesome.
My personal 2 favorites, DB Power Amp and Exact Audio Copy. I'm just saying. One last thing. J River Media Center fans, we will talk about your beloved app soon. I've been playing around with it, but it's
I'm intrigued.
You should be. It's very intriguing.
We also got a message from Jeff, who asked after we posted episode 37 of Tekthing, this episode reminds me, given that you get a real authentic micro SD card, do you guys consider it a valid, trustable way to back up data, given that they're getting ridiculously cheap and they have a small footprint and they play on almost any device ever made, and I doubt they're going anywhere anytime soon? I think it would be cool to just buy a 64 gig card, put all of my supercritical data on it, and store it somewhere. And I can do that easily, multiple times in multiple places. From Jeff.
You know what I say? Squirrels only eat about like 10 or 20% of the nuts they squirrel away.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Remember where you store those things.
So I would stick to, yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I would stick to a hard disk drive for archiving all of my data. The problem with SD cards or USB flash drives is that they use flash memory technology. So this doesn't retain data permanently. The data is stored as static charges in little cells on the chip of the card, and those charges can dissipate over time, and they do dissipate the more that you write to the card. Also, once the card has been shorted out, exposed to any kind of major elements, whether that be your laundry washer or your dog or whatever, then that data is gone. Of course, I could say the same thing about a hard disk drive.
Right.
Don't let your dog chew on that either. So I believe that a hard disk drive is the best viable option due to consistency, organization of the data, meaning if you have a 1 terabyte hard drive and you have 1 terabyte of data, you don't have to stick it on a bunch of SD cards. Instead, you have that nice big hard disk drive that can keep the organization that you already had. They do run a risk of dying eventually. Most of them will probably die in 8 years or less than that. Hopefully you don't have one that dies in infancy, but they are also not using flash memory, so your data stays there for good. It doesn't decay.
It decays some over time. Pretty much every high-end, almost every pretty decent NAS these days has what they call sort of a polishing feature, so it goes over and rewrites the data to the disk to keep that sort of magnetic bit hot and fresh so the data doesn't decay.
Good
but
point.
It is something to consider. I know people who archive entire video projects as loose drives on a shelf.
Yeah.
Always terrifies me.
I know that too. I've seen them. With hard disk drives, I should also mention that you have a better chance of saving data from a failing drive, a hard disk drive, over a flash drive. There are plenty of software techniques to save data from a hard disk drive that's unreadable or dying. Not so much true for flash drives.
Right.
Once a flash drive is dead, it's kind of dead unless you can figure out a workaround. There are some workarounds, but it's very tough to do, and chances of that are slim. So also remember, lastly, use our backup rule to make sure that you never lose your data.
3 copies of your data on at least 2 different media, at least one of which should be off site. So if you want to use flash drives for one of your 3 copies, fantastic. I personally would not use flash drive for all of my copies.
Yeah.
You know,
Just one's probably fine, but not for your main backup. That's a bad idea. Just use 321 and you'll be good. And remember, once in a while, because this is pretty much the end of the show, right? Sorry I hit you. Put down your phone, step away from the screen, even walk away from your desk for like 5 minutes as long as your boss doesn't yell at you. It's actually pretty healthy to do that now and then. Do something analog, like go to an observatory. For example, near me, I have the Chabot Space and Science Center, and
so
they
awesome.
do events all the time.
They have like at least 3 telescopes going on is it every Friday night? I've taken Seamus there.
Is it Friday?
We got to look at a galaxy through a 100-year-old, like 30-foot-long telescope with a huge objective lens. He was just amazing.
One thing I will never forget is seeing Saturn up close with a moon going by it.
How cool is that?
Amazing. I will never forget that, and it's been like 10 years. But yes, they do events very often. I'm sure there's probably one close to you wherever you live. I know for sure there is one in Missouri, so chances are there's one near you. With that, I'm Shannon Morse.
I'm Patrick Norton.
And we will see you next week on Tekthing.
Synchronized howdy wave. Well, half of a synchronized howdy wave.
Did it stop?
No, we're good.
Is it good?
We got it.
Yay! For everybody listening out there, use 321 so you don't have to record your show twice.
Well, technically 321 wouldn't have saved us in this case.
Well,
Record to the
yeah.
hard disk here.
It turns out both of them
Failed. That's like
Now be ordering.
a dual fail.
That
is
was a
kinda
dual
awesome.
fail. We had dual fails on our recording of our last segment. It was terrible. And that was sad.
My aunt's been burned out of her house twice. My mom lives on an island that gets flooded. I live in earthquake country, and I got friends that live where forest fires tend to burn things to the ground.
Ooh,
People wonder why
good.
I'm a little paranoid about off-site backup.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, sir.
Oh my goodness.
Offsite backup. Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for contributing. Thank you for patroning. And yes, people, fat patron-only video coming
Fat.
shortly.
That's PHAT. Fat.
Why gotta be that way?
And tempting.